Welcome back, scholars. Today we are talking about N. Scott Momady's The Way to Rainy Mountain. N. Scott Momady is a Kiowa Indian born in 1934. He owes his heritage to both the Cherokee and Kiowa tribes, but identifies as Kiowa. This is a beautiful narrative. It's vivid and sharp in ways that the Black Elk narrative was. Although this has a much gentler appeal to it, a gentler feeling to it. The language is beautiful. The descriptions are vivid. It's a story that tells his own journey and that of his grandmother. There's descriptions of his grandmother in the sense of family, and he gives us an oral history of the Kiowa people here. This is a more modern tale. It's not early American, but the subject matter is. Momady's voice is an important one. It tells us a vital and beautiful story of the nature of the Kiowa, of the progression of a tribe across the U.S. Now, here is a portrait of Mr. Momady, the writer here. And what strikes me most about the prose here is the vividness, the beauty of it. And he talks about the importance of, it demonstrates rather the importance of lore in our culture. Remember, at the earliest part of our semester, we studied the Native American mythology. Here is a story about Devil's Tower. If you've ever seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Devil's Tower plays a very prominent role in this story. But let's see, there are things in nature that engender an awful quiet in the heart of man. Devil's Tower is one of them. 2 centuries ago, because they could not do otherwise, the Kiowas made a legend at the base of the rock. My grandmother said 8 children were there at play, 7 sisters and their brother. Suddenly the boy was struck dumb, and he trembled and began to run on his hands and feet. His fingers became claws, and his body covered with fur. Directly there was a bear where the boy had been. The sisters were terrified, and they ran, and the bear after them. And they came to the stump of a great tree, and the tree spoke to them. It bade them climb on, and as they did so, it began to rise in the air. The bear came to kill them, but they were just beyond its reach. It reared against the tree and scored the bark all around with its claws. The 7 sisters were born into the sky, and they became the stars of the Big Dipper. Okay, and again, this is mythology is a means of teaching, a means of explaining the world around us. And this is a beautiful one. Because if you look at Devil's Mountain, if you're unfamiliar, it looks like a big tree. In fact, let me see if I can find it for you. Forgive my typing skills. There we go. Yeah, and you can see there the scoring of the side of the mountain. It looks like it, for all purposes, the stump of a massive tree. No idea what formed it. I'm sure the information is out there somewhere, but this is it. This is what Momady speaks of. Okay. Another thing too that struck me about the text was the discussion of the Kiowa religion. They worshipped the buffalo and the sun god. And this passage here, when they could no longer find the buffalo, it was a terrible time in our history where the white settlers would be passing by on trains and they would just shoot the buffalo from the trains. It wasn't just for some sort of sport either. It was, although there was a certain amount of useless and degrading sport to it. But the idea was to starve out the Indians who depended on the buffalo. And so the passage here that I'm thinking about was the one where Mamadi, his grandmother goes to find when his grandmother's people go to find the buffalo, and they go to beg cattle or a single bison from the Goodnight Loving herd. Mr. Goodnight and Loving, these were the two men who were the basis for the Larry McMurtry series. Lonesome Dove. They were fairly famous ranchers, and they had a trail from Wyoming all the way down to Texas where they would drive their cattle. But anyway, they went to ask them for a herd, rather for a bison from one of their herd, and but they couldn't find any. So he says they could find no buffalo to hang on the old hide from the sacred tree. Before the dance could begin, a company of soldiers from Fort Sill orders to disperse the tribe, forbidden without cause as the essential act of their faith. Having seen the wild herd slaughtered and left to rot upon the open ground, the Kiowas backed away forever from the medicine tree. That was July 20th, 1890, at the Great Bend of Washita. My grandmother was there without bitterness, and for as long as she lived, she bore a vision of deicide. Okay, that's a rather striking statement to the Indians were restricted from practicing their religion, mostly because they feared the ghost dance. They feared the white people, the cavalry. They feared the practice of religion because they might organize and might bring about an uprising in their estimation. So there's a great sadness that underlies the beauty of Mamadi's tale here. So I hope you've enjoyed this piece. There is, if I can find my picture here. There we go. There is the cover from The Way to Rainy Mountain by N. Scott Mamadi. This is my first encounter with him, and it's encouraged me to want to read more. I hope you will as well. As I said, this is a more modern telling. This is a man who was born in 1934, 20th century. Does not quite qualify as early American himself, but the story he tells of the Kiowa people and their impact on this nation, or in a greater sense, this nation's impact on them makes it a vital story. All right. So I hope you'll read this, engage with it, and notice the beautiful detail here. It has vast descriptions of the landscape, much like the early American, like the Westerns, or the traditional Western novels were. So that'll do it for this time, and I'll see you in the next video.